Welcome into an Inside Carolina Postgame Live. I'm Tommy Ashley, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity. Carolina 93, LaSalle 67 in the Smith Center on Saturday afternoon. And Rob, I'll bring you in here first. Just overall thoughts before we dig into it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, let's go ahead and deal with the overarching caveat here, which is LaSalle's a weak team, and we know they're a weak opponent, and so that will permeate everything else that we talk about. But uh, you can't dismiss the fact that it was not only a win, it was a sustained stretch, a couple of sustained stretches of nice play, and the team seemed to be buoyed by that. There were a lot more smiles today. Some individuals, which I'm sure we'll get into, played better. But just team overall seemed, and especially once they got out ahead, playing from ahead for once, seemed to be relaxed and having more fun.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk about this right here because I think this is, like you said, level of competition matters. But Cade Tyson shot the ball today, looked comfortable shooting the ball today, and made some shots. Led the team with 23 on 9 of 14, 5 of 10 from three. Had a couple heat check, and he had 5 rebounds there. Rob, I said it before this season started that this season really hinged on how Cade Tyson played, and I still believe that against the elite teams. Against LaSalle, he looked pretty good. He looked like what people expected.
That's right. I mean, he looked good, and the team was looking for him. He hits his first shot. He hits 2 out of 3 or whatever it was to start, and then the other guys responded to him. It seemed like they were making a point to get him involved, and he's been missing shots like that. He was squirreled away in the corner. I thought the team spacing was a little better. The ball movement was better. They had all those assists in the second half, and that's what you're looking for. Like that's the Carolina basketball that's been missing. It was a lot less of the YOLO dribbling. There was some of that a little bit, but not nearly as bad today. They were looking for each other, and Tyson was the primary beneficiary.
Yeah, Tyson with that 23. You also had, excuse me, RJ Davis, 13, Seth Trimble, 10, Van Allen Lubin with 10 as well. Everybody else sort of sprinkled in there. Uh, Elliot Cadeau, 2 for 5, did have 7 assists and only 1 turnover. That, I think, is a pretty huge deal for North Carolina. Rob, Cadeau seemed early on in the game, it felt like it was going to be a repeat of what we've seen repeatedly. And my first question to you was going to be, they had a week to prepare or a week to work on things, and it looked the same. But it leveled out a little bit, and Cadeau had 7 and 1. That's more like the Cadeau we saw earlier in the season.
It is. He definitely made some real nice passes. They were mostly easy plays, but still, it was good to see him finding success with those passes. His jump shot, though, I think that still is not there. It looks like last year where he doesn't really want to shoot. The defense does want him to shoot, and he's almost reluctant when he shoots, and you can tell that he doesn't seem to think the ball is going to go down. I thought R.J. Davis, by contrast, missed a couple today that I thought that were going in. The deep one he hit was like much more arch on that shot. Cadeau doesn't have an arch problem. I still don't think his follow through is right. So you sort of circle back to your question. I do think that overall he played a good game, but he's going to have to hit some jumpers too. So I'm still waiting for him to turn the corner.
But I think a key thing you said there to start that comment was they were easy passes. And this is what Hubert Davis has talked about. This is what every coach talks about. Hit a single. You don't need home runs. And Cadeau did that. Is that not what we need to be talking more about? He made the easy pass. Now, the flashy stuff and the crazy passes, the oohs and ahs, they're nice. But the easy ones like today, Rob, is the key for this young man as the competition ramps up severely. But also going forward in the ACC as well. Just make the easy play, and then everything else is gravy.
Exactly, and I think it's not a coincidence that a lot of his best passes were to big guys. You and I have talked about this in recent games when the team hasn't played well, lack of balance. Hubert Davis has talked about lack of balance. Today they made a point to go to the big guys. It isn't the old school interior screening like you would see, but on these pick and rolls, at least hit the big guys as rollers. There were other occasions where I thought that they waited for them to set up and got them the ball. A couple of times they looked them off still, but for the most part, they did a lot better job with that. And that's where Cadeau can make his bones because he's such a great ball handler with a great change of direction. So he can create an angle for a rolling big guy. Now the big guy has to do his part and convert on those plays. And we'll see how it works against better competition. But I was glad that he was looking for it and they were looking for those passes, and everything just looked a lot more seamless.
Yeah, we're talking with Rob Harrington here on the Inside Carolina postgame. Carolina with a big win against LaSalle, and a quote-unquote easy win, but a win that they really needed to have some success, and they did. Certainly sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity, and Johnny T-Shirt's going to have some swag for the coach that they introduced at halftime, so you need to make sure you're a premium subscriber so you can get that Johnny T-Shirt discount as well. Rob, looking at the lineups now, it's the same lineup we've seen. You got the three guards, and then you've got Lubin and Drake Powell. Were you surprised at the minute breakdown here against a team like LaSalle? I mean, you want to get a lot of guys time. Ian Jackson with 24, Cade Tyson with 21, Jalen Washington with 8. That is interesting to me, and I don't know if
the
it's a
Jaws
big
music.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a thing or it's just how it worked out today. But what did you think of the way the minutes were distributed today?
Overall, I think it looked about how you would expect for this type of game. I did get a laugh when RJ Davis came back into the game with about 5 minutes left. I was like, oh, Hubert is still going to be Hubert. But he hadn't played nearly as much to that point. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, the Jalen Washington thing, they seem to be unhappy with him after he took a 20-footer early in the shot clock, and then he went out for a while. It seems like they're trying to motivate him using the bench as a tactic, and maybe that will work because he probably, at least this is just one person's humble opinion, he probably started a little bit too long into the season. I think he doesn't need to start, and he could be more comfortable coming in off the bench with less pressure on him, start to take and make the types of shots he made last year in his reserve minutes. Getting more time than that, but certainly I think that caught my attention that they seem to be frustrated with him because in this game, if you're only playing 8 minutes, it feels like a little bit more intentional.
Yeah, and then Withers only had 12 as well. And Withers, he did hit that top of the key 3 there, but he had some of those moments like, come on, get it going here. So you've got your 2 big front court starters early in the season combining for 20 total minutes in a blowout against LaSalle. But let's talk Van Allen Lubin a little bit, and they referenced it on the program, and I've thought about it the whole time. This guy averaged 13 and 8 in the SEC last year,
In the
which
SEC.
is yes, that's what absolutely in the SEC against. We've seen how good that conference is. Is that something that maybe North Carolina fans can see coming from Van Allen Lubin this year? I think it would be tough just given the way the offense runs, but he seems to me to be the best option going forward down there on the block.
I think so. Maybe not exactly those numbers, but he is a proven productive SEC scorer in the post. And if you said if only Carolina could have gotten a proven SEC scorer who could get it done in the post, you said that's what we need. And I think I'm not saying that he's going to be Bryce Johnson, but I do think he's an option down there. I wish his hands were a little bit better. He drops some real catchable balls, and maybe as he gets more comfortable, he'll make those catches. But all in all, I do think that they're leaving some production on the table with him, and I think they're starting to figure that out now. It's not going to be spectacular. He can't play bully ball the way that Armando Bacot did, but I think that he gives them some dimension in the post, and that's something they can build on going forward.
One thing I like, he dunks the basketball when he has opportunity to dunk the basketball. You don't, somebody in the chat said Washington missed bunnies. You don't miss bunnies when you jam them in there, and that's the key for me. And then Ty Claude. I mean, Ty Claude looks that was pretty athletic though when he almost had that one-handed slam there. But at least he's a guy that gives you max effort. It feels like as well too, Rob.
And he'll dip his shoulders, and I think this team's missing that. He'll dip his shoulders and create contact. Lubin will do some of that too. I actually think Claude is the most physical of the big guys. To the point, I think you mentioned Withers not playing much. He was making some easy finishes hard, and I guess if there were a theme for the day, it's make easy plays, take easy shots. And so the guys who were doing difficult things seemed to draw the ire of the coaching staff. Maybe ire is too strong a word, but creating some frustration. Whereas I thought Claude at least sticks within himself. He doesn't have the body control, I think, to be a big minutes guy, and so he ought to be lower on the totem pole. But he does play hard and he's physical. And whereas I think Lubin gives you a lot of that, plus he's just a better basketball athlete. But those guys aren't throwaway players. And although I wouldn't want a huge center rotation. It seems like Hubert is experimenting out of necessity, of course, but at least today, I think he probably saw some things he liked for the first time in a few games. Compared to the prior 5 games, they saw some things they like. So when they go into the film room, it's like, hey, we did this well. This was a good play. That was a good play, and that makes your team feel better.
Yeah, getting wins, no matter what they are, especially for a team that's had some struggles, is certainly a good thing. And you get I don't do math, but that's 26-point win for Carolina today. I did think it was interesting that the big Lily for LaSalle was kind of working Carolina a little bit there, and that just sort of speaks to the big rotation that Carolina has. Let's flip it over. Let's talk about Seth and RJ a little bit. They 4 for 7, 4 for 11 for RJ. I do like the 5 and 1 for RJ there. Only 1 rebound, which is surprising. RJ is usually good for at least a handful. But what'd you see from those two guys? Seth's been good. RJ's RJ, but he hasn't shot it well. This coming week especially, these guys are going to really need to step it up, plus whatever else we've talked about before now.
I thought they both were a little bit better defensively today, again with the caveat off the top of the opponent, but they were more active with their feet and their hands. Now Trimble already has been a solid defender, and he stepped it back up today. Whereas Davis, I have felt like, I don't know that analytics agree with me, but I have felt like he hasn't had a strong defensive year. Today I thought he was better. He had a couple of moments. I mean, any player does, but I thought he was more engaged on that end. Made a lot of good passes. For the most part, taking good shots. Although there were 2 or 3 that I thought were early season types of shots. Trimble, I would like to see still become more involved as a scorer. Other than in transition. In transition, he's very assertive, but I want to see him get more involved in the half court. But overall, I thought both those guys were solid, and at least they were able to put one in the books and say, okay, nothing bad happened here. RJ's still looking for his 3-point shot, but he's certainly going to keep taking them. That's unlike the issue with Cade Tyson, which is, will he ever take enough shots to get hot, or will they throw in the towel on him? RJ is going to keep getting his shots, and so I have to believe he'll come around.
Yeah, and while we're going through players, I got to mention James Brown. I mean, microwave James Brown plays 5 minutes, gets 6 points on 3 or 4 shooting. Doesn't scratch the stat sheet on any other category other than 3 for 4 for 6. But I like the energy he brings. Rob, let's look sort of overall. We talked about the schedule here it ramps up and then it backs off a little bit before ACC play. What do you take away specifically in a game like this if you're a coaching staff, given the talent disparity? This is not Lionel Simmons' LaSalle team coming in for folks. And if folks don't know who Lionel Simmons is, look it up. He once had, he may still have it. I'm not sure if Connect tied it or broke it, but the Smith Center scoring record for an opponent. But what do you take going forward into Florida and UCLA from this game, Rob?
I think what they'll do is they'll go to the team and say, look, yes, opponent, but look at all this ball movement we had when we were playing well in this game. Look at what our defense created for us going in transition. That will translate against any opponent. So if we share the ball, if we are engaged defensively, then we can have success against these guys. It will be harder to do it, but that's the way that the team can be successful. So I think that's what they take away as a style. This was a more winning style than the Georgia Tech game, which was a win, but it felt ugly. And Joey and I had it was almost like a morose podcast because the team just played so poorly, even though they won. This game, I don't feel like that. Yes, opponent, but I'm really interested to see if they'll maintain that style on Tuesday night, because if they beat Florida, then they undo a lot of the damage they've done. Not all of it, but certainly that would be a resume builder. It's another opportunity to get a really good non-conference win.
Yeah, and a lot of people, and Ian Jackson and Drake Powell mentioned Drake earlier, but Ian Jackson, something else that I like seeing from this team, Rob, is the guards go to rebound. Ian Jackson had 7 rebounds in 24 minutes, 3 assists, no turnovers, no fouls, and 5 points. How important is it to have the freshmen in Powell and Jackson playing as free as possible and not because it doesn't look like Drake has a little bit of a conscience. Ian has no conscience on the court. He's going to let it fly. He's going to step back. He's going to take it to the rack. How important is it for this team that those guys really continue to step up?
No question, and part of it, and I'm glad you mentioned the rebounding, and I think it sort of is correlated with R.J. Davis having an off day as a rebounder because the freshman wings were rebounding, so that's okay. I like to see them sticking their nose in there. Powell had a couple of offensive rebounds, which is where this team's really struggled. So I would love to see those guys play a little bigger. You don't have to be very strong to play taller or at least play up to your height. And I think they both, like a lot of undersized, under muscled freshmen, have played a little short at times. So it's good to see them coming around. I like to see Ian Jackson stay on balance a little bit. He made a really nice drive with his left hand. Previously this season, he's been floating those up there. This time he went up much more strongly. He did, and I know people will point this out, he did sort of look, I don't know if he looked off Cade Tyson, but he missed Cade Tyson. Took myself off camera for a second, but he missed Cade Tyson on one. But overall, I thought that was a real positive step for both of those guys. Powell had a nice basket or two. Would like to see him become more assertive because at least coming into this game, he was by far the lowest usage player in the rotation, and they need that to change from him, especially if he's going to start.
Yeah, and you've got Ian. He should have thrown that ball to Cade Tyson. I mean, that's a layup or a dunk, but you got to get yours, and you got to get mine when you're not playing a ton of minutes. And Cade Tyson had a plenty for himself. Carolina wins by a large margin. Talk about congruity. Matt at congruityhr.com for your small to mid-sized business assessment. I've said it over and over and over. The financial side of things pushes the boundaries of how great you can be. We've seen it at Carolina with the football program decisions, and now Matt at congruityhr.com can get your small to mid-sized business. And also Johnny T-shirt. Rob, I'm going to let you close out the show. I'm not going to ask you a basketball question.
Yeah.
Because I know you want to talk about the man they introduced at halftime, which is still surreal to me, Bill Belichick, head coach, North Carolina.
I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. Just seeing him out there in those colors, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is bizarro world. And I don't even care. I genuinely don't care. I'm sure you guys have talked about all this stuff already, but I don't care if I hope he needs to give 1 year and hopefully 2. But the mountains that they moved to get this done, it's so encouraging for what it means for the program going forward. And while I probably have some company in thinking that the Board of Trustees they blow a little too hard sometimes, I do like the fact that they're talking about football excellence specifically, not just we need to be good at all sports. So that means a lot to me. And Belichick to me represents the thing that we've always asked for, which is a sincere attempt to be good at football wherever it goes. They're genuinely trying this time. So I didn't even like it initially, but the way that it came about and their determination to get that deal done, which was a hard negotiation, apparently, I really am excited. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Let me ask you to spin it back to basketball. And this is something that I think people fail to realize is that a great football program can certainly help the basketball program, even at North Carolina.
Yep.
We've seen how it's worked for Alabama and Auburn and places like that. But your thoughts on how this all, we talk about rising tide raises all ships or whatever, but football money is king. Carolina being good there, how could that benefit Hubert and the Tar Heels and that roster going forward?
It's NIL because I think the football team will open a new channel of donors. And once those people are comfortable giving, you train the fan base like, hey, my $25 goes somewhere. Look, we just got a 4-star quarterback today. And it was a recommitment, but still, my money means something. And so if it means something in football, then it will mean something in basketball. And people just mechanically know how to give. You still see questions like, how do I give to Oldwell? That won't happen anymore. People they'll get used to it, whether it's $10 or $100 or whatever, I think all of those contributions will increase, and it will benefit both sports. Notwithstanding the fact that they're under central management anyway, so they can move money around to benefit either sport. But I think just overall, the amount of money coming in to support the two programs, especially the revenue programs, will be much better because of football.
Absolutely. Carolina beats LaSalle. Carolina has a new football coach, a new four-star quarterback has recommitted. A good day in Chapel Hill on Saturday. Carolina, December 17th against Florida in the Jumpman Challenge, Jumpman Invitational, the Jordan thing in Charlotte on Tuesday night.
Some Jumpman thing in Charlotte, yeah. And
Speaking of NIL,
that's going to be a big one, and we'll be ready for the post game too.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for Inside Carolina's complete coverage on all the basketball, all the football news, and Rob and I will be back on a post game on Tuesday. Shop at Johnny T-shirt, hit up Congruity, and stay safe and warm. We'll see you next time.